not change. Chris Wallace here, advisor to men, to those willing to widen their perspective, bringing you another message of power and love in service of meaning and freedom. Give me a few moments of your time. I'm going to share something I think that you'll appreciate. And it's about this saying that I hear so often. A woman wants a man she can change, while a man wants a woman who will stay the same. Firstly, it's a quote often assigned to Albert Einstein. And however, quote investigator says that there's no evidence that Einstein ever said it. Rather, it appears a comedian named Mort Saul invoked Einstein's name to add weight to this common grumble about marital bliss during a comedy bit. It was meant to be funny. It's an obvious exaggeration, poking fun at men and women. And its origins probably come from a play called Sayonara, where the character John Tring says, that's the trouble about marriage. Women always hope it's going to change the husband. Men always hope it won't change their wives, and both are disappointed. After all, marriage is about growth. I think it's better to enter marriage with more realistic expectations. And these are no doubt added to by Einstein's name. Folk wisdom persists about this quote that must be a little bit true. The danger is that it's now a self-fulfilling prophecy, so much so that we search for ways to make it real. Hell, man, I've heard it for most of my life, popping up here, popping up there, uttered by both men and women, permeating gender discussions, percolating in the culture in one form or another. So what's really behind it? Is there any truth to it? Or is it just another compromise that we make to exist amongst each other? Or is it maybe a feminist lament about the problem with men? Overall, I call bullshit, and I'm going to tell you why. I don't happen to think that nature or evolution or the universe or even God works this way. This quote is plenty true, and it serves a higher purpose, but not in the way that most people see it. In fact, most people may even be missing the point. Those who use the quote to complain should first come and speak to me, because I think I can shed light on the intentions behind this meme-worthy roadblock to love. Let me explain what I believe is the misunderstanding behind it. My guess is that you'll never view it in the same light after what I tell you. Let's start right at the beginning, looking at the part where a woman wants a man and tries to change him. Let's look at the very beginning of dating, for example. When a woman chooses a man, she's betting on him. After all, most men and women find a mate in their 20s, long before he's fully established in life. He's often just barely left adolescence and is getting used to adulthood, often reluctantly. And he may also be there physically, but lag behind mentally. I mean, heck, it can take until age 25 or 30 before men are fully in charge of their own neuroplasticity, their own learning. Meanwhile, she's long ago assessed her attractiveness in comparison to her peers. And when she's ready, she looks around for a man who matches her self-assessment. Her personal ambition is why she may choose a man who is not only her equal, but who slightly exceeds her expectations for herself. She is ruled by the egalitarian spirit present in the sisterhood. And it makes sense that she'd wish for a man she feels suited to. And if she can, find a man with a little extra thrown in for good measure, just in case. In my experience, if you ask a 16-year-old girl what she wants out of life, she can tell you. I've managed hundreds of teenagers and young adults over decades with whom I had good rapport. A teen girl can usually describe how many children she plans to have, what kind of career she wants, the house she will live in, and some idea of the kind of man she will marry. Not quite the same for men. That said, women's personalities generally score higher in agreeableness and neuroticism traits. And neuroticism is a measure of how you experience pain. I suspect that this might contribute somehow to her hopes around mate selection. Additionally, some women score higher on introversion than others, and more so than some men, though not in general. And introverted people tend to live a little bit more in the future. Let's face it, she has 20 good years of fertility compared to triple that or more for males. To put her preciousness on the line, she needs a man who can defend her, someone who is strong enough to leave his peers and come and start a life with her. It also helps if he's kind, if he's industrious, and being smart's an extra bonus. Looks matter only insofar as they are a marker for health. My contention is that women are irresistibly attracted to power in a man. In fact, power trumps looks any day. And that power comes in many different forms. Why? Primarily because she needs a capable landing place for her internal projection. That's the truth of it. We create our own realities. She has plans for the future. Sometimes it's unconscious, but usually it's over. Usually she knows what she's doing. I tell you what else. She will have an innate instinct for growth. How do I know? Well, women are, after all, the source of life. That's no small thing. And growing people is eventually second nature to her. She prefers people over things in general. She's both blessed and cursed with this gift. You may have encountered me telling you that this comes with a caveat. She will worry out loud or in secret about being taken advantage of, that her sacrifices in service of others might or will be in vain, that it might actually enslave her in martyrdom. This is every caregiving woman's untold fear, being shackled like the martyr with no possible escape. This is a conflict that she's burdened with. She's a human being with a self-interested brain, just like anybody else's, but who also has an almost irrepressible instinct to care for others. So what is she to do? Well, into this mix, the universe or God or nature comes up with a solution. And that's where we come in, gentlemen. Unavoidably, if he's like most men, he's first attracted to her looks. And hip to waist ratio catches men's interests wherever you go in the world. Fairly standard. She chooses him and he chases her until she catches him. This is how life gives both of them agency in the pursuit of love. During this courtship, he sees her as she is, usually before the caregiving spirit can take her over. He's exposed to her deepest essences, glimpses of her divine self, but also her wild woman. She shows him the part of her nature that can run alongside him in the night, like a she-wolf with her pack leader, and howl with him at the harvest moon. They hunt together. Fully certain in their timeless union, she allows herself complete vulnerability, like a wolf who submits playfully to a dominant partner. She lays on her back, ready to be taken, to be possessed, his jaws tenderly around her throat. She trusts him to keep her alive. By all intents, ideally, she is protected by the profane and defended by the sacred, and secure in his powerful lust. She surrenders completely to him. Oh, sweet surrender. She does this to entice him, but also to ensure he becomes her placeholder. What do I mean by that? Well, let me explain. Nurturing life is a sacrifice without limits, and so to him she entrusts glimpses of her soul and the constructs of her shadows for safekeeping, so that when her spirit wanes under the caregiver's burden, he will remind her of who she really is and help her find her way back to herself. That's the balance she needs, and that's the role he plays in it. It's not that he wants her to stay the same, it's that he safeguards her essential self. She is not mother, nor worker, nor wife. She's a sexual human being. He never loses sight of this truth. He does not marry a mother, a worker, or a wife. He marries a woman, a sexual woman. When Mrs. wanted children, I could see she was possessed by the archetype. Her instincts having risen to the fore as her comfort and safety increased under my protection. I asked her many years later, after our 2 children were born, how it was that she knew it was time. It's a bit of her mystique. I still hold in awe, seeing her answer still fresh in my mind's eye. She quietly told me she had an image of herself holding a baby, and that image followed her day and night. That kind of spiritual instinct is a force instilled only by the heavens above. And so I supported her quest, and we have 2 wonderful children. She held her babies and fulfilled her dreams. and I have not let her forget who she is, who we are together. For any caregiver woman is counting on her man to defend her from herself. As she grows, he grows right alongside her, or even better, before her. Let me elaborate quickly to make sure that this point's clear. Men need respect, for respect is love and love is respect. Respect is either earned or it is taken. And for his own safety, he also needs loyalty, which can only be earned. Well, a man with a loyal woman by his side has the wind at his back, which is why he must stay a little out in front of her to feel it. Part of that partnership with his woman is being able to safeguard her essential self, if needed, to stand and rescue her from the chaos of her caregiving spirit, to pull her back from the brink of high anxiety and overthinking and a loss of self from which she may never return. I think straying from this arrangement is risky, as it upsets nature's delicate balance. And it really pisses her off when a man abandons her to selfless martyrdom. Look, nothing at all replaces the appeal of youthful beauty in the eyes of a man. Men shouldn't be ashamed of this, for it's how we are made. But we should just trust nature on this. It's another reason why he must put lust first and let love take care of itself. Through the lens of her loyalty, it is her essential self that he sees. While respecting her need for her caregiver's spirit full expression, and though she ages and suffers the ravages of time like anyone else, to him, she remains as she was, as she will always be. There's nothing more beautiful than two old people in love. When my mother died in 2014, at the age of 86, she was surrounded by her 9 adult children. We'd held a 2-day vigil for our matriarch, full of prayer and soulful goodbyes, and she crossed over on a Friday afternoon at precisely 4:30, with her husband of 62 years holding her hand. He was whispering sweet reassurances to her as she went. The family dog keened loudly just as she died. Afterwards, I put a Wallace blanket on her, and I played the bagpipes, the flowers of the forest, as she was taken out of her house, feet first, as she always demanded. In the driveway, we loaded her into the hearse, where I led 3 great cheers of true and free, our voices cracking like pistol shots in the cold December air. Back inside, my father told us of how he met her, how she punched him in the stomach when he tried to kiss her at the end of their first date, how an old colonel had told them in the officers' mess to stop flirting and get married. So they did. My father told us that after that day that she had punched him when he tried to steal a kiss, that he had been like a moth to flame around her ever since. Like a moth to flame. Imagine that if you can. May they both rest in peace. And that is what happens to men who stand in for their women. Ma had 10 pregnancies in 12 years, and he was like a moth to flame around her till the moment she passed. Because when a man has a loyal woman in his life, well, she becomes his standard. When he thinks of a woman, he thinks only of her. She is, in fact, woman to him. Let me end this by telling you that every man has a dream, a nightmare, or a secret fantasy that one day he is fighting some terrible beast. Though he fights valiantly, at some point in his reverie, he loses ground and his weapon and shield are lost. And he lies there prone and defenseless. By rights, it should be the end of him. But then, silently out of the shadows appears the she-devil he calls his woman. 2 daggers in hand, she leaps on the beast and plunges one into his back and another from the side directly into the beast's heart. As the attacker falls before them, vanquished, while she lets out a blood-curdling scream that reverberates through the night. And the man is up before the loathsome brute hits the ground with the sword in hand, and in one fell swoop, he chops off its head. Walking away with his partner, he tells her, "Good work, woman," and slaps her ass. She walks alongside him. They are inseparable in this together, partners, as they have always been. He has become more. She is still connected to her core. Next time you hear how she wants him to change and he wants her to stay the same, remember what I've told you today. Thank you for listening. Chris Wallace here, advisor to men. You can find me at advisortomen.com, where I run the Brother Board of Directors. It's a series of masterminds to stand with other men in mutual support of each other's quest to live better lives. If this helps you, subscribe, leave a comment, look me up. Until next time, stay powerful, true and free.